So this is a continuation of my previous video where I started to get into different races I've done, well, one race in particular. For those of you that haven't watched that other video yet, I am on a walk around our neighborhood with my youngest son, Titus. And so sometimes, very rarely, you'll see me looking down at the phone because I'm paying attention to what's around us, looking around, making sure that car is staying in the road where it's supposed to, and I'm not walking out into the street where I don't need to be. And so, yeah, so let's dive in. Last October, end of October of 2025, I competed in a race called the Last Cowboy. The Last Cowboy is a last man standing or backyard ultra event in which at the top of each hour on the hour, all the runners start a 4.167 mile loop. And during this 4.167 mile loop, you can take however long to run it, as long as you're back in the starting corral for the next loop at the top of the next hour. You go until there is only one runner left. If there are two runners left, you keep going until one of them drops out, and then the last runner does one more lap. And the winner has to do one more lap than everybody else. And so this was a really fun race. I'd like to say that I was built for races like this, even though I had never done one ever before in my life. And so some of my training leading up to this race, I was stacking weeks upon weeks of 100 plus miles. I got up to, let's see, for this race, I think I got up to 125 mile a week. But that was something like 15 consecutive weeks of over 100 plus miles, averaging probably about 110 to 115 most weeks, getting up to 125 for some of those weeks. If you can't tell, I like to run, and when I run, I like to take it to the extreme. And so I like to go pretty far, pretty hard. So on race day, again, I didn't quite know what to expect, but I came prepared. I wasn't sure how far everybody else was going, but I knew that I wasn't going to quit. And so my strategy for this was basically a 6-lap rotation. I would run easy for the first hour, easy again for the next hour, medium for the third, and then I go back to easy, then easy, and then I would do my every 6th lap hard. One thing to note, I don't know if this was a vote of confidence for the runners or what, but the organizers had belt buckles that had little magnetic tags that they could add to personalize them with the mileage that you ran. And so the mileage went up in 25 mile increments. So the first one they had is 25 miles. If you hit 25 miles, you got the 25 mile little addition to your belt buckle. And then 50 miles, 75, 100, 125. Since this was the first year they've ever held this event in Nebraska, it was held up in O'Neill, Nebraska, they did not expect anybody to go much over 125. The biggest belt buckle tag that they had was 125 miles. And so, again, most people new to this event usually set goals such as 50 miles or 100 miles. And again, I thought it would be cool to hit 100 miles, but also I knew that I wasn't going to stop. Basically, by default, my goal is to win, because if you don't quit, if you don't stop, then the only option is either to be timed out, and you have to average about 14-minute pace per these 4.167 mile loops in order to finish them. And I'm like, well, as long as I am able to get that done, I'll be able to keep going. And so that was my goal. Again, along with that strategy of easy, easy, medium, easy, easy, fast. It was working out pretty well, except for the fact that going into the race, I was too nervous the day before. I had built this up too much in my mind that I was like, this was a race that since I wasn't going to quit, this was a race I could win. I'm not one that usually tries to win races. I envision myself as kind of mid-pack, maybe upper mid-pack. I would definitely be far from elite. And so I kind of built this up in my mind to be much more than it was. In reality, this is 30 people coming together in northern Nebraska in order to try to get as far as they can. And so I did not sleep at all the night before. Yeah. If you're going into a race that is about lasting as long as you can, getting sleep the night before is kind of important. However, unlike any other race I've been in, my stomach did not fail me. I was able to keep everything down that I ate, and so that's what I did. I came in with no strategy besides the easy, medium, easy, hard. And after a few, I won't say about the fourth lap, I was still holding to that. After about the fourth lap, I met up with a guy who was listening to the Nebraska football game, and so I asked him if I could join him and run alongside of him while he and I would listen to the Nebraska football game on his speaker. Turns out that was a great strategy. Basically finding a guy that we nailed down a pretty good strategy of we would run for 5 minutes, walk for 5 minutes, run for 5 minutes, walk for 5 minutes. And we kept that up. Every now and then, whenever I needed to get my medium or my hard in, I would go ahead and do that. And I had reasons for that. My goal was for those medium or hard, was to feel different paces in my legs. Feeling different paces, making sure my stride was able to maintain different paces, help me out. I would still try to recommend that, where you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. When you're doing the same stride over and over again all day with little change, you run into muscle fatigue where you're hitting the same muscles in the exact same way. Even varying the intensity was able to, in my mind, allow me to keep going a little bit further. And so I ended up running probably most of the next 23 hours or so with that guy. And we just talked, chatted, ran together, walked together, did the whole thing together, except our rest areas. So our goal, again, if your goal is to finish in less than an hour, whatever time you finish in less than an hour, you get to use that time. You can't bank it. You can't start like the next lap early, but you get to be crewed and get to relax and get to rest for that little bit of time. So for my easies, my goal is to finish each lap in about 50 minutes. My mediums were probably about 44s, 43s maybe, and then my hards were about between 35 and 40 minutes. I had two pretty fast ones of the day. My one that wrapped up 50 milers, so my 12th lap of the day was my fastest of the race. And I finished in, I think, a little bit less than 33 minutes, about 32 high. So a little bit less than 8-minute pace. And then my next fastest of the entire race was actually the one wrapping up my 100th mile. I noticed, since this was 24 hours into the race, that I was starting to get hallucinations. Sleep deprivation was a big issue at that point, and so I decided I would really push that one, and I got done in 35 minutes or so. So again, about 8:30 pace or so. And then that let me have 25 minutes to rest. My body really enjoyed that. I don't know how much I actually fell asleep, but I had told them leaving that I was going to do a fast one, and I don't think they realized how fast was going to be. When I got back to the corral, no one was outside waiting for me, so I shined my light into the community center that served as home base. And then my crew came out and kind of helped me set up, and I just rested for 25 minutes before setting out for the next one. Everything for me went according to plan. Like I said, my stomach held out. In every 100-mile race I've done, my stomach had been the deciding factor. My first 100-miler, my stomach quit at 25 miles. But since, like I said, I don't quit, that was 75 miles of throwing up just about every half mile. So I'm going to say I threw up in that one about 150 times. Kept absolutely nothing down. I remember taking water just to have something in my stomach to throw up. The end of that race, extremely dehydrated, extremely in an extreme calorie deficit. And then I definitely picked up my training for my second 100. Trained eating food through that one, did a lot better. But my stomach only made it about 34 to 35 miles. So my last 65 miles of that one was about the same. A little bit better, and so both of those kind of turned into a death march where I was trying to survive, walking almost the whole way. In both of those, if I ever tried to run, I immediately had throw up and vomit come up, and so it was hard to keep anything down, let alone water. And so that was those two. But again, back to the race I've been talking about, the last Cowboy. We were able to keep my stomach good the whole day. And so whenever I wanted to eat something, I would just get it out during my 5-minute walking break. I would eat on the road. I wouldn't just wait till the stretches in between. Another thing that I did to help my stomach out was I knew that I was gonna have, if I was finishing most of them, between 44 and 50 minutes at a time, I would have 15 to 10 minutes to rest. And so instead of rushing in to the corral area at the end of each lap, I made a point that I would walk it in. And a lot of people are like, oh, the finish line's there, I need to run it all the way in. Basically, in my head, I was starting that recovery time before I actually got to the recovery tent. And so even if it was time to start a 5-minute run, I would make a point that I would try to walk. My buddy that I've been running with for most of the day, we didn't quite have the same view there, so we often separated at the end where he wanted to jog it in and I wanted to walk it in. He wanted to make it look good to everybody watching, make him look strong, have that strong vibe going, that he didn't need to walk, he wanted to make it look like he was running. And I don't see that as ego. I think he was definitely wanting to use those vibes in a positive way. And a lot of races like these is mental. It is getting the attitude of I can do hard things, and if you are comfortable with making yourself do those hard things, you're going to go pretty far into the race. So this friend who I had been running with for close to a day, he stopped at 125 miles, or was it 112 and a half? He made it well over 100 miles, so he did a great job. I definitely enjoyed running with him throughout the day, and it definitely made the day go a lot easier. And so then we were down, 6 people had made it to 100 miles. But then after 125, I think that's when everybody except for one other person and I and had dropped out. So it was just this young man named TJ Harms, Siskiyou. I forget his hyphenated last name. But TJ was quite the runner. He specialized in running really long distances. He made it his goal to use this as a qualifying race for Badwater. He wanted to make it at least 135 miles. And so as we were going, 135 miles is the length of Badwater. So as we were going, he would set this bar, and then he reached that goal. And I would halfway expect him to quit because he reached his goal. First, it was that first lap that was over 135 miles. But then he kept going. And so after that, his goal was like 150 miles. And then he's like, well, if I beat 150 miles, I'll do 154, and got that 154.167. And so at this point, I was really questioning whether he was going to stop like he kept saying he was going to. And so I was getting ready to spend my second night out there. And so I instructed my crew, which was mostly family members, well, all family members, but some extended family, to get out an air mattress so I would try to legit sleep. I hadn't used an air mattress at all the first night, and so having an air mattress would allow me to lay down and sleep, and try to get some more complete rest in between loops. And so I had just gotten that out after we finished the 158th mile, 158.33. And so I thought that we were going to be in it for the long haul for that second night. And all of a sudden he comes out and he wasn't wearing his running shoes anymore. So we kind of embraced in the corral. I knew that this was going to be my last lap. And so I take it out and run that last lap by myself, get in 162.5 miles. So that's the race cap of the last Cowboy standing. One thing that they let us know near the end of that race, the prize for winning is free entry into next year. And so they bumped the date 2 weeks later. The 2026 edition of the race is going to be in November. I believe it's November 7th, whatever that Saturday is. And so that's been on my calendar ever, finishing that one. This is probably the longest I've ever had something like that, a race on my calendar. Usually I pick something out. Also, usually I don't try something too extreme every single year. A lot of people will have multiple races each year. I go a race every 2 years. And so I completed my first 50 miler in 2018. I completed my first 100 miler in 2020. I completed my second 100 miler, I believe, in 2022 or 2023. And so I spaced these things out. And so after completing that one, maybe it was 2023, this one was 2025. But yeah, I was definitely going to use my free entry, so I still have that race coming up on my calendar. As I'm hopefully my foot's recovering, I'm going to be back out there in O'Neill, Nebraska, doing my best to repeat as champion. With that being said, I do not have 15 consecutive weeks at 100 plus miles a week. I have 18 consecutive weeks of 0 miles a week. And so the training is definitely going to look a lot different. My goal is to be able to run again, whatever running again looks like. Like I said in a previous video, I'm not sure even if it's going to be the same feeling. I don't know what the normal is going to be. Obviously, I'd like to get out there. I'd like to get running again. I'd love it to feel just as smooth as it was before. But yeah, we are going to try our best to get back into it, and going to try to repeat November 7th. Be out there. So hopefully that shared some of what it was like to run the last Cowboy standing, and kind of give you a little bit insight into my strategy, as well as what it was like for that day. So again, these videos are not necessarily planned out in advance. I'm just talking. You get a conversation with me while pushing my son in the stroller. Anyway, have a good night and God bless.